Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and that the UK has lost a serious amount of influence due to Brexit is fairly evident. We have lost positions on influential international groups one by one, most famously the International Court of Justice, and we're now being rebuffed for trade talks by several key targets as well. But we're not a pariah, not just yet, and international summits are how a country maintains influence on the world stage. In this video, I'd like to discuss how Boris Johnson is voluntarily stripping us of influence that even Brexit doesn't have to cost us. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, then please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, as I was saying, the UK outside of the EU is going to take a knock to its influence. It already has done, and it's going to continue to do so. We need to build some backup. There are, I suppose, two main ways to generate global influence. The first one is that you create interdependent relationships with other countries. This is actually the entire premise of what became the EU. Get European powers to become dependent upon trade with one another, and so it would be impossible to go to war because you would just shoot yourself in the face. And it worked. And the second way is on a personal level. So you talk to other world leaders, not in public speeches or via newspapers or on Twitter, but on a personal setting, whether in small groups or one-to-one. And this is where the International Summit comes into it. They always have a primary purpose, a main thing that you're going over there to talk about, and that's what's going to be reported on. Journalists are going to ask questions about it. That's what you're in the public eye you're doing. But you get to discuss other areas of interest as well. And if you're a good communicator, that personal touch, that charisma can reap dividends for your country. You get to speak with your counterpart in another country completely off the record. None of it's recorded because it's not official, so it can't be leaked to the press, or worse, your own parliament, and off the record, and a lot of global politics is done that way. So it was with no small measure of dismay that a large international security conference took place this week, attended by major players such as the United States, and the UK was largely absent. I mean, I say largely absent. We did have representation. We had representation in the form of Tony Blair, but, he's not politically influential in the UK anymore, and certainly not part of the British government. We sent civil servants, but they're not able to influence global policies with a one-to-one meeting with a head of government or even just senior ministers. They just present a prepared statement, notes down a few things, and then bugger off back to their hotel. We did send an MP, a former junior minister, so a Conservative MP, who might in theory have been able to at least represent the government, albeit in a junior way, and therefore in a way that wouldn't have been taken entirely seriously. Can you imagine the President of France or Canada or the US Secretary of State giving time to a junior minister? Seriously? No, it would be insulting for them. But the MP in question, Tobias Ellwood, was not actually there to represent the government. They were there in their capacity as the head of a select committee. So they're representing Parliament, really. Sir Mark Sedwill turned up, civil servant, one of our unelected bureaucrats, one of the chief ones. Apparently, his brief arrival was greeted with the statement, "It's great to have you here, but it would have been even greater if others from your government were present." So world leaders were discussing security strategy, which you would think is fairly important. And we had nobody at the table to present the UK's views. We had observers from the UK, but no one taking part. And, now maybe they would have been ignored. Maybe if Boris Johnson had gone ahead, which he should have done, or at the very least sent a senior minister, we may have presented a point of view that wasn't in line with other people's and would be, shouted down, so to speak. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. The point is that we have yet again quite deliberately, put ourselves in a position whereby we are having no say at the table. And as I said, these occasions will have also involved less public discussions on other matters of mutual interest. We missed that opportunity as well. It's just another example of how little Boris Johnson and his government understand international diplomacy. They've got no clue. He says he wants to create a global Britain and reach out to the world. And yet, on the very first occasion, when the world invited him to come along and say something, he not only couldn't be bothered to go along, just like he couldn't be bothered to go and visit the flood hit areas of the UK, he didn't even see the point of sending a senior cabinet colleague who he could have ordered to go. I can't be asked, you go along, I'm the boss, that's what you have to do. Didn't even do that. So it's not that he just couldn't be bothered. He doesn't even see any benefit in having his say on the world stage. And so again, I have to ask, why is it that people think that Boris Johnson is going to lead a powerful and prosperous future for Britain when he isn't even talking to the world when the world invites him to come along? He's certainly not going to be able to break down the doors when those doors are slammed in our faces in other areas as well. So anyway, I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, then please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.